Hello and welcome everyone to SwiftUI from scratch number 9, where we're going to take a look on how to use your custom modifiers inside of SwiftUI. If you're enjoying the content, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And without further ado, start the video. First of all, let's try answering the two most important questions. So first of all, what are actually custom modifiers and why would I want to use them inside my project? Well, to answer this question, I've prepared a little sample right here. So as you can see, we have some text view which says button 1, and we have 5 modifiers on this view. So let's say I want to use this style again later in the future. So maybe we can copy this whole thing and put another button down below, which will say button 2 with the exact same styling. And as you can see, the code starts to get very messy, very cluttered. And imagine having 15 of those views inside one file. This would get very messy and very repetitive. So a custom modifier is basically more of the standard modifiers inside one keyword, which you can use on a view. So this redundant code will be eliminated. So let's take a look on how to actually make some of those. Let's now try and build our first custom modifier. So as with most of stuff inside SwiftUI, a view modifier is also a structure. So we will start by saying structure, and we will call this red button, for example, and this is actually a view modifier. The structure refers to a protocol which is called a view modifier. You can command left click the view modifier and click on this jump to definition button. And after it loads, because it is actually a very big file, you can see it has 23,000 something rows. But the important thing for us here is that this is again some protocol called view modifier, which is available for some platforms, as you can see. And it also needs a function called body for it to refer to the protocol with some type aliases and things like that, which are not that important right now. This is only for some extra knowledge for you if you want to explore this. However, let's try making the body function. So let's go back to our code, open up the curly braces, and as we need it, function body. And as you can see, we already got it right here, so you can hit enter. And as you can see, we got a parameter which is called content, which is a type of content. We're not going to go any deeper inside that. And this function returns some kind of a view. So let's see how it works now. You can use the content variable right here as the parameter. And now you can use the modifiers as we wanted earlier. So the content can be any type of view. So perhaps a text view, it can be a V tag, an H tag, it can be a circle view, it can be whatever, but it has to be a view. So what we're going to do now is to copy all the modifiers for our style and put it right here. And we got our view modifier struct ready to go. Now let's try actually using it. So inside our first text view, we will erase all of these modifiers and only use one, which is called modifier. It expects some kind of a modifier structure inside the braces. So this is where our red button structure comes in. So we will simply say red button, as you can see right here, and initialize it with the braces. As you can see, nothing changed in our code, but instead of 5 rows inside our code, we've made a separate structure for it and then applied it inside the modifier. We can do the same thing with the button 2, of course, so we will get rid of it. And whenever you change some kind of a modifier inside the view modifier structure, it will apply to all the views who have this structure as a modifier. So for example, let's say the foreground color will be black now, and the changes are immediate, and I don't have to change the foreground color for each of the views separately. So this is actually a very powerful usage of the view modifier struct. There is actually a cool way to simplify even this code, which I use very often and like, and is by making your own custom extension. The modifier is actually an extension of a type of view as well. So if you again go command left click on the modifier and jump to the definition, we can do the first one. After it being loaded, you can actually see that if we scroll all the way up, this is an extension of type view as well. And it is some function which is called modifier. We will now use our own custom extension to kind of rewrite this so it will be more simplified. So this is an extension of type view. Let's use the curly braces, and here we're going to specify a function once again. So we will call this function, and we will call this red button style now. And it needs to return some view once again. Now you can refer to the view, and of course it has no arguments, I'm sorry. Now you can refer to the view which is going to be returned, so it can be again a vstack, a text, whatever. You can refer it with the self keyword. And inside of this, we're going to use the modifier, and then use our red button structure. So this is basically identical with this, but the main difference now is that we don't have to write modifier on each of the views each time. We can just simply call the red button style. So dot red button style. And again, this will have no change on the appearance, and it works very great. So both of these are extensions of a type called view. So it is a text right now. But the difference is that the native SwiftUI extensions are colored in this purple, and your custom ones are colored inside this light green. I think we've done a pretty good job here, but the next question is, how do we make this view modifier structure more reusable for the future? How do we make it more generic? Because let's say that you actually like this kind of styling, but sometimes you want the background color, for example, to be, I don't know, yellow or blue. Or sometimes you are not liking the foreground color of being black and you want it to be some other color. Or perhaps the font being smaller, so the whole button will be smaller as well. So do I make another structure for each of these? Each of the combination I've just named, there are probably a lot of them. A better thing to do would be to introduce some kind of variables inside the view modifier structure, which can manipulate the arguments of the view modifiers inside of it. Let's see how it will be done. It is actually very simple. We are going to introduce our variables before the body function. So one can, for example, be for our background color, so the type is color, of course. Then maybe the foreground color as well, which is a color 2, and then perhaps for the font size, which is a CG float. And we're going to keep the corner radius being 20 for each of the view. However, you can change this however you like. It really depends on your use case. So instead of these, we're going to put the variable names. So for the background color, we want this one, then the foreground color right here, and the font size right here. For now, I'm going to comment out the extension part. I will go back to that later on, and we will use it on both of these. As you can see now, we're missing arguments for parameters because it doesn't know what kind of a background, foreground color, and font size should the red button structure be. So we need to actually specify it when calling it inside the modifier. So you can use the fix button again and say that the background color for this one is going to be green, the foreground color will be white, and the font size will be 12, for example. And for the second one, we can use some other ones. So foreground color blue, background color blue, the foreground color will be yellow, for example, and we're going to go with 40, I guess. Let's try resuming the preview, and this should work as intended. So we got a lot of smaller button because the font size is 12 here, and the actual size is relative to the font size in this use case. So you can manipulate it, and it would make much more sense now to call this actually my button, not a red button. And we're going to rename this my button, since we're not only spawning the red button now, but we can actually choose. And you can of course choose any of the variables and what is going to be stable here. So corner radius stays the same for each of the views, but we are manipulating these 3 variables to change the actual view. The last task for us is to make it also work with using the extension. So let's get rid of the comment right here, and the first thing we will change is the name of the function, because it is my button style right now, and we're calling the my button structure right here. As you can see, we will get the same exact problem. We're missing the arguments, same as within the content view, and we will use the fix button as well. The problem now is that you might know what you want to put for the parameters of the my button structure. If I put exact colors, so say red and green and 25, for example, I am back to where I were 5 minutes ago. So what I need to do actually is to put some arguments inside the my button style function and pass them this way. So let's see if this is any clearer. So I need one for the background color. I will only use the first letters. So for the background color, it will be a color. For the foreground color, we have a color as well. And actually font size starts with F as well. So for foreground color, we'll do FC. And for the font size, we will do FS. So these are just labels. You can name them however you like. And this is, of course, a CG float again. And I will use the labels now. So B for background color, FC for the foreground color, and FS for the font size. And we are good to go. Let's try using it right now. So again, without the modifier, which is called modifier, we can call the my button style as we did earlier, but now it actually needs some parameters which we've used inside the extension. So again, same thing, we will say that we want an orange background with the foreground color being black, for example, and we'll make it pretty big, so the font size will be 50. As you can see, it works as intended, and it is reusable, and it is your custom view modifier for buttons. You can use it on any other view if you follow these steps inside the video and make the code much more clean, much more organized, and get rid of some additional view modifiers that make your code unreadable. Whether you're using the approach with the modifier or with the additional extension, it will work exactly the same way. So it is more of a preference question here. I think personally this looks much more clean and ordered than this right here, but the functionality is exactly the same. So it is totally up to you to choose. Alrighty everyone, thank you very much for watching SwiftUI from scratch episode number 9 about custom modifiers for your project. I hope you learned something new, and if you did, make sure to subscribe for more future tutorials and episodes. And also, if you're interested in the code from this video or any other video posted on this channel, be sure to check out our GitHub account with all the codes as well. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.